Staying with HR, and this is the question we're asking everyone on this series of the podcast. What do you think? And I know that HBR features so much now of topics that are really, really resonant to HR as well. What do you think HR leaders need to be thinking about most in the next, say, 12 to 24 months?
Well, you're going to laugh because I'm very biased about what I think people should be concerned about. But I honestly think, the last few years, and certainly the next 12 to 24 months, there's going to be a lot of difficult conversations, whether that's about where we work, what hybrid work looks like, what flexibility we give people, whether that's about layoffs or economic uncertainty or budget cuts, right? Or about DEI issues. I can't tell you how many people have been reaching out to me to say, we're struggling to have good conversations, productive conversations about equity and inclusion in our organization. How do we do that? And so I think really honing in on what's the culture, what's the environment we want to create around having these difficult conversations? What are the skills that our people need, particularly our leaders? Because they're often going to set the tone for how these conversations go. To me, that's really the most important thing that your listeners can really focus on right now it's a fundamental skill that I think we sort of expect that most of us should know how to do, but it's amazing how little we're given, or, in terms of training or teaching, around like how to have a fight, right? How do you actually have a conflict, move on, get through it, and even if you both don't get what you need, continue to be in relationship with each other and to be, to interact in positive ways. So for me, that's the big thing. There's going to be a lot. It sounds like if we look forward and I think about what we are publishing in HBR, there's going to be a lot of turmoil, particularly around the economy and politics in the next year. And how do you make sure that you yourself and the people who you support are equipped with the skills they need to navigate that?
And I think so much uncertainty. It's almost like how can we deal with uncertainty? And as you said, there's going to be some contentious decisions made. So how can we at least get along? How can we be constructive? How can we get to the best outcome for the company, but also for the people, the employees? If we think of HR as almost like the guardians of that, or the arbiters, perhaps, of the connection between employers and employees. There's so much that's happened already in this decade. It almost feels like a decade's gone already, doesn't it? But
it does.
And things are moving so fast, and they're not likely to slow down. I think if you add the pandemic to this economic uncertainty, obviously the war in Ukraine. Now there's wars elsewhere in the world, so maybe my bias is that there's a war in Europe. So I think that being bigger than and elsewhere in the world, and that's not true. Of course, it's not. But there's so much going on, and then when you add that to the fourth industrial revolution as well, and organisations are already changing massively anyway. That's a lot for people to deal with, whether you're a leader, whether you're an HR professional, whether you're an employee. So I guess, as you said, that probably leads to more conflict.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about, let's take it back to the very beginning where I talked about sort of why I got into this work. If you think about the way in which we're going to navigate those uncertainties or make decisions, it is all in conversation with others. And if we're not able to get along and have constructive but challenging conversations, we're not going to get through it. And our teams aren't going to get through it. Our organizations aren't going to get through it. And so it's imperative that we really build these skills and practice them and acknowledge they're hard. We're going to mess up, but then we sort of get up, get back, and do it again.
In this series, we will be speaking to a range of senior leaders who are pushing a data-driven and digital HR agenda. Make sure that you subscribe via your podcast app of choice and also via our YouTube channel for free and regular interviews with the digital HR leaders of the future.